Okay, a lot of people keep asking me about build specs on this thing. It is a 98 Jeep Grand Cherokee, 5.9 limited. If you're watching this video, you know exactly what these things are. I bought this car probably 10 years ago. I guess, yeah, about 10 years ago, because I was right out of high school. And drove it for a long time daily. Then I converted it to two-wheel drive by using a 242 transfer case. So it's two-wheel drive, selectable four-wheel drive. And I never took it out of two-wheel drive. So I took my 46 RE and converted it to two-wheel drive, kind of like, you know, that, where it's just an output shaft in the back. And, you know, then when the car gets faster, then I sprayed it with nitrous for a while. And nitrous is kind of an expensive habit in Seattle when you can't get it very easily and it's all very expensive. So, you know, then I was working in a machine shop, and by then I decided it's time to put a turbo on it. This is the third turbo. The first one was a Chinese eBay one that was like 150 bucks. Then I went to an On3 88 millimeter, which I still have down there in the garage. It sucked in a rubber hose and then chewed up some of the blades, but it was fine. You know, I mean, it still made air. But so anyway, this is a stock long block with valve springs and head studs. That's all this is. I built a motor at work and I was having problems with it, so I pulled the motor out, take it apart, and then I went to the junkyard and got this 200,000 mile sludge puppy turd box thing and put it in here, painted it, put it in here, and it was great for a year. Went to the dyno, boiled the oil. There was no fan on the front of the motor, so the oil got way too hot, and I blew through the bearings. Drove home with it knocking, took this apart, put rod bearings in it, made bearings in it, and then this is where it sits today. So stock bore, stock stroke 360. The cam is a comp grind that I had Hypotech do. It's a lot of duration and not a lot of lift. Somewhere around stock lift, but a buttload of duration. I don't have the specs on me right now, but the thing likes to idle around 1,000. I can push it down to 900, but it gets real unstable. And then this cam, when it was in a neutrally balanced motor, so it didn't have weight in the front and back, I turned, and in the data log it showed about 7,200, and the motor was happy and making power up there. So, and that was in my other block, but anyway, so all this is a stock long block with valve springs and head studs and a cam. It is a M1 intake, 4-barrel with an Edelbrock intake elbow, and then eBay, 92 or something millimeter throttle body. LS coils with studs on the stock valve covers. VS Racing Bosch 210s. And then I made the injector rails. I got some stock and blank AN fittings and welded them up. And let's see, the headers are for a Dodge Ram 1500. They're shorty tubes that are turned backwards, and then I just heated them up till they were glowing orange and hammered and pried and pushed them into the spot that I wanted them, and then did some ceramic coating on them, and then eventually I put EGTs in each cylinder. So I have 8-cylinder EGT, 8-cylinder coil on plug. I just added the blow-off valve not that long ago. What else is there to tell you about? Air-to-air intercooler. The turbo is a VS Racing Borg Warner copy. It's like a 75/75. I mean, this thing was massive. It is massive. I've had a few oil leaks in here. I've had to replace this fitting a couple times. I finally ordered some stuff to completely replace that. It's an AEM wideband. I still use like an old school Chrysler voltage regulator because I tried to control it with a Mega Squirt and it was just a fucking nightmare. Let's see. Here's kind of something I thought I really think is pretty trick. This is a 58X LS7 style, whatever. I'm sure anyone that's watching this has heard about LSs. So there's a 24X and like a 58X or whatever the other number is. So I machined out the center hole and then welded a bunch of weight to it to make it center balanced, and then put it on a pulley. And then, I don't know if you can see it, there we go. I have a cherry Hall sensor that's picking up a crank signal, and it's a very accurate crank signal. Better than the factory one, because the factory one only uses, oh, fart, where did I put that thing? Here it is. This is a factory flex plate. Each one of those little squares is a trigger hole. So for every rotation, you get, what's that, eight input values. Okay, so the computer calculates its crank position based on those 8 values and how fast it passes them and whatnot. My Mega Squirt, which can use that, and it did for a long time, but now I'm on 58X, so my computer calculates for every rotation there's 58 teeth, you know, high-low points in the data that show its crank revolution, or where it is in its crank rotation, which is far more accurate. I don't use a distributor, so I don't know if you can kind of see that thing right there. It is a cam signal pickup out of a Ford, and the 6-cylinder Jeeps, like later ones like 01, 02, do the same thing. 44 millimeter wastegate, which is way too big. It's a Chinese piece of shit, but it's part of this whole thing, and it just is what it is for now. What else do you guys want to know about this? No AC, which I've talked about in the other video. I'm gonna kind of redo this whole deal here because I want to put AC back in the car. I'm gonna put an air to water over there, run water lines to the back and let it circulate water instead of trying to run air through the front of the motor, which it doesn't have a hard time doing it. It just, this intercooler takes up so much real estate up here that I think I can efficiently cool the charge air with water, and then I can have an intercooler up there and a full-size trans cooler up there and a full-size oil cooler. You know, I can have a bunch of the other coolers that I need to keep this thing happy. 3-bar map sensor. It's a 2-wheel drive, like I mentioned. It uses a dummy beam out of a 6-cylinder 2-wheel drive. It is a Ford 88. Again, I covered that in another video. The back has been completely gutted. This is part of why I bought that deal there, is I'm gonna put all this interior back in, put the rear seats back in, put the tonneau cover thing, and I'll have a water tank and my battery and rear controls. It'll all be fine. No one will ever see it. I can drive this thing daily. Let's see. Interior, B&M, is it called like a Magnum shifter or something? Anyway, I don't know what it's called, but this thing's cool. It is completely overkill. There's no reason for me to have that. Besides, the stock shifter wasn't gonna work with the 4L80, so it's pretty badass. I got rid of the VIC and put switches in there. One runs the heater, fog lights, 2-step, traction control. Actually, that's fan and that's fog lights, but you know what I mean. And then I think I have one dead one that's just not connected to anything. All right, in here. So as you can see, I don't have a heater in HVAC box or whatever. So this is where I put all the wire in, my MS3 Pro, and then a Mega Squirt that runs the transmission. Now that I'm going back to the 727, that thing's kind of useless besides collecting like auxiliary data that was going through it. What else? You can't really see much. Let's see if I can turn the light on in here. How do you turn the light on? Whatever. Anyway, there's a Raspberry Pi computer in there and some USB. There's a bunch of stuff in here that you can't see. And I guess one day when I take the dash off, I'll have to take some pictures of it because I'm kind of proud of that work that's in there. Which runs that screen. And it's like a Chinese, weird, very weird shaping LG copy screen. It works great, really does. And then I have like an auxiliary heater box in there because I got tired of this thing not having heat or not being able to defrost. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Let's see what else. What else? Oh, this is kind of cool. I wish I had the keys to show you. I'm gonna grab the keys. Unedited rambletron video. Okay, so the kill switch on. Alright. So let's see, the screen gonna power up. Yep, there you go. Thing runs pretty quick. But the great part of this is it's a full tuner studio. So if my laptop dies, this thing can do everything that I need it to do. Is it gonna give me any data? There we go. I wish it'd load a little quicker, but it is what it is. Oil temp, fuel pressure, trans temp, manifold air. That's, I guess, kind of, yeah. Anyway, radio still works. Oh, AEM boost switch. This is the coolest thing ever. You know, driving around on pump gas, great. Fill it with ethanol, you know, turn it up to 11 or whatever, and you can have that control a boost bias table in the Mega Squirt for the boost controller. So I guess that's kind of it. When I do put the full interior back in the car, I'm going to try to figure out a way to maybe move this around or something so I can put the factory trim plate around this. I think that'd be kind of trick. Oh yeah, this is what I'm going to show you. So I ran a bunch of wires up into this thing because none of this stuff worked as soon as I got rid of the PCM. And I put my own check engine light and oil pressure light and traction control light in it, which I don't know if any of those, I think it's got to be running for it to work, but yeah, Mega Squirt has outputs for a check engine light, you know, low oil warning and all sorts of stuff. It does show up on the dash if oil pressure, you know, like if I, you know, we stalled the motor to test it a few times, or we unplug the sensor and, you know, the value defaults to whatever, and these lights turn on and this starts blinking like oil pressure, you know, shut me off, don't fucking hurt me. The heated seats still work. It's funny, the heated seats are almost like independently wired from everything else. You know, you unplug the amp back there and you take the PCM out and 90% of this car doesn't work. The VIC stops working, all the heater controls stop working, the auto lights stop working, but heated seats, yeah, they don't care. They're just wired in there, fuck it, whatever. The Mega Squirt is controlling, ooh, something smells good. Mega Squirt does control my high and low speed fan. And the Mega Squirt also does control my trans cooler fan. All in all, that's about it. It's a really simple system. I mean, a lot of people think it's very complicated or they don't know how I figured this out or did this, but honestly, it's a lot of this is just LS stuff that I've modified to be on a Chrysler, and then taking a pretty idiot-proof standalone like Mega Squirt and you know, try to use as many outputs and inputs as that thing as I possibly can. So, yep, that's the Rambletron. Yeah, I got a couple boost gauge. These things are kind of really in a bad position. What else? Sunroof did work. Anyway, okay, that's it. Rambletron over. Thank you.